talking for about 10 minutes, 5-10 minutes.
I don't know.
And we've got to press the button
Rookie
to
error.
say, yeah. We've got to
Score
press the
error.
button saying live broadcast.
Yeah, that's reassuring.
Okay, so here we go.
Hi,
It's probably just as well, actually, because we were talking a lot of nonsense. But
Are you
anyway,
implying that we won't be talking nonsense from now on? Because I think that's a very bold view to assume.
Yeah, there's a lot of nonsense.
right, okay. Is it what? Can our techie guy just check? Is it working?
Yeah,
it is working.
It's all right. Hello, hello
we have
Europe. Right, hello Europe.
We are Birmingham.
We're Birmingham. As you can tell, we're really organised.
That was this restaurant.
Because that's Birmingham's really organised. We're really organised. So yeah, I'm just going to read through the little welcome script. Hello everyone. Hello Europe. We're really pleased to be here tonight as part of the Borderlines live poetry stream. Woo! That sounded great. Borderlines is a poetry project funded by Arts Council England and run by Boomsatsuma that aims to inspire and encourage young people to write and perform poetry about borders, emotional, cultural and physical. Now, I did say young people there, and as you can probably tell, I'm not quite that young, but I've been sort of asked to kind of like sort of coordinate the Birmingham side of things. These are the young people. They're going to be doing their poems for you in a moment. I've got a poem as well about Borderlines, which has actually been uploaded to the Boomsatsuma website. Anyway, let me finish off the little introduction. Tonight, all over the UK and the rest of Europe, that's Finland, hello Finland, Poland, dzień dobry, that's the only bit of Polish I know, I'm sorry about that. Ireland, all right. I know
Was that a stereotype?
Top of the morning.
Yeah, Tom's got Irish heritage, ain't you?
Top of the morning to you.
Right, he's got, and he's wicked
I can't
Irish.
tell if that's better or worse.
He's a wicked Irish
Yeah,
dancer as
yeah.
well, Tommy. So the proper stuff. Where was I? Oh, Greece. Hang on, I know this one. Kefaristo. Check that out.
Got any plates?
Cyprus.
Mortifying.
I don't know, but I'm thinking of the language there. Is it apart from Cyprus? Anyway, Estonia. Hello, hello, Estonia. Portugal. Ciao. Yeah, Italian heritage. I'm hoping that you understand ciao. And young people are performing their poems and celebrating having their voices heard. Boomsatsuma would like to say a huge thank you and well done to all the young poets involved. Here they are. And we're honoured to have you guys involved. And a big up to everyone across Europe for tonight. Of course, today was supposed to be Brexit Day, wasn't it? Here in the UK.
We do not take responsibility for the actions of our government.
Yeah, absolutely.
And 52% of our population.
Yes. These guys are too young. So anyway, you can go and watch the live streams. If you go to the borderlinespoetry.com live events page, then you can see everyone, including us. You might, I don't know if you, is anyone watching us at the moment?
Yes.
If you are, give us a...
Leave some comments, yeah.
Oh, we've got someone.
Oh,
yeah, leave a comment.
10 people online at the moment.
We've got 10 people watching us
there.
Live.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing there, but I saw David Dimbleby doing it on Question Time once. So was it David Dimbleby?
Yeah.
Is it
Fiona Bruce now?
Yeah, Fiona. Yeah. Anyway, so where are we? Please tweet and share on social media using the hashtag Borderlines thing. And like, I'm going to introduce these guys, and then I'm going to go and sit over there a bit. We've actually, I'm not sure this is happening anywhere else in Europe at the moment, but we challenged ourselves. Well, I say we challenged ourselves. I challenged them when they came through the door. I offered to bribe them with Jaffa cakes. Other cakes are available.
I mean, I can promise hummus. That's what I'm doing here.
Hummus. I've got hummus as well. Here's the Jaffa cakes. Look at that. Jaffa cakes are coming into shop. Who wants a Jaffa cake? No. If only I could offer the whole of Europe a Jaffa cake. Jaffa
That's
cakes
very philosophical. Thank you.
across the borders, basically. But anyway, so I'm going to start over here. This guy over here, Jonah Corran. Okay, so that's Jonah. Right next to me here, we've got Leo Kemsley. And next to me on this side, we've got Tom McCann. And it's all part of University of Birmingham Writers Block. So yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over there, because what I challenged them to do was to write a little poem on the spot. Really, as we arrived, we had a little dabble for about 5 minutes. So not only are they going to read the poems that they've written already for the Borderlines project, but we're going to try and do something off the cuff this evening.
Do not judge us for its quality.
It's a bit scary.
I have not read this back yet.
I tend to, whenever I'm asked to do stuff on the spot, I tend to write a limerick, and somehow I just don't think a limerick has the gravitas for such an occasion as Borderlines this evening. You know, there was a young person from Europe. What rhymes with Europe?
Scallop.
It's not bad. Scallop, Europe. I'll have a think about it. A young European called Spoz. Looked like the witch from the Wizard of Oz.
You're being too harsh on yourself.
There's two lines. Right, we need 3 more lines. If anyone's got any ideas for the other 3 lines of the limerick,
yeah, comment on the video.
Down there.
This is an interactive experience.
All right, so I'm going to clear off for a bit, because I'm filling this sofa a bit at the moment. So I'm going to move over there. I'm going to leave it to these guys for a little while, and then we're going to do poem each, and then I might talk for a bit while they're finishing off the off the cuff poem. Okay, I've just made that up right now, so there we go. We'll see what happens. So anyway, I'm going to go over there. I'll see you guys in a bit. I'll leave you to these marvellous young people who have written some marvellous stuff. See you guys in a bit. Stay right there.
Hey gang.
Hi everyone.
Borderlines.
Okay, so what, do you want to have a little chat before we do our stuff?
So how did you guys respond to the theme of Borderlines? Like, is this have you got poems that you wrote specifically for this event? Or stuff okay, so shall we go one by one? And so Tom, what was your first response to the theme of Borderlines?
Okay, so when Spaz told me about this project, and you know, the fact that it was happening today, you know, B-Day.
Yeah.
Not the nice kind of B-Day.
No, definitely not.
Not the nice kind of B-Day, as in birthday, or one of those nice B-days.
No, B-Day as in washing your bottom.
Yeah, a bottom washer in the bathroom. You know, B-Day. You know, it's been coming for so long, hasn't it? You know, and now it's here and it's not happening. So I suppose I was thinking about that. I was thinking about B-Day. I don't know if you guys were. And
certainly crept in there.
Yeah, and thinking about, you know, all the other lovely people who are contributing to the project, and thinking about Borderlines, how are we, you know, all connected, and what is this crazy world that we're living in right now?
Absolutely.
You know, and trying to
what are these weird things that we're pretending to divide us?
Weird times, and just trying to have a bit of an emotional response to it, really. I mean, you know, my stuff always comes out in quite an abstracty kind of way, you know. I wouldn't say that I'm an overtly like political writer or anything like that, but you know, there were certain issues and themes that sort of crept in. It was quite a broad, you know, sort of stimulus that I found.
Absolutely. Do you think there was any particular aspect of your personal life that had a real impact on how you approached it, or?
What?
I don't know. Like, was there anything that particularly resonated with you about the theme of Borderlines, like from your particular perspective?
I just think I just think about all the friends that I have, sort of, you know, who aren't based in the UK, and it was sort of like over in Europe, and you know, I know that's not necessarily like something that's directly sort of related to the EU or whatever, but I feel a lot of the time now when I'm sort of speaking to those people or speaking to somebody, very apologetic. I'm always apologising. Do you know what I mean?
I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
I'm very with you on
It's
that.
awkward, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's awkward.
It
It's
really
that awkward
is.
breakup.
Mhm.
You know?
And it's always whenever you go to another country as someone from the UK, inevitably you're going to discuss Brexit.
Yeah, it's
aren't
like
you?
one of the first questions they want to ask you when they find out that you're in the
Absolutely.
UK, especially England. They're like, "Hey, so what do you think about
Did you vote for
Brexit?"
Brexit?
Yeah, and I'm always
Are
like,
you an idiot? What?
"Yeah." I'm like, "Well, I was too young to vote, so it's my
Right.
business, but it's not my fault."
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. No, I distinctly remember sitting on a train in India having a very in-depth conversation about Brexit with a few people, and it's just like you can't get away from it, really, can you? Because it's going to affect our relationship with the rest of the world so
Yeah.
completely.
No, I
Even if even if it ends up being a soft Brexit or whatever, like there's still we took this action, and a significant portion of our country made this decision that we want to essentially cut ourselves off in a sense from a part of the world, and that is something that you can't really get away from, even if this whole thing is put to bed and we end up revoking Article 50, even though that's probably not going to happen. But we still did it, and enough people in this country still voted for it, and so I think that's something that's going to affect the way that we think about our relationship with the rest of the world for a very long time.
I remember a few days after the first vote, I flew to America, and I was on an airplane sitting next to a guy eating a pizza, and he was sort of asking me where I was flying to, where I was coming from and stuff. And when I said I'm from England, he just turned to me and gave me a slice of pizza. And he was like, "Good luck."
Amazing.
Was it nice?
So, it was a good slice of pizza.
What was the topping?
It was just a plain margarita.
We're getting
but
into the
I was
important
like, okay.
questions here.
So that's the one gain from Brexit, me
Nice
getting a slice
gesture.
of free pizza.
Around the street in
Yeah.
America, like that. So yeah, Leo, when you were approached with this theme, what was your initial response to it?
I guess my first thought was sort of my own personal experience with borderlines, and it sort of I was thinking about like when I was a kid and I first moved here from America in 2005, and sort of experiencing an airport for the first time, and like how scary that was, having all the border guards and stuff like that, and all the security, and like I started thinking about my parents' experience, like my mum's first experiences moving to England, and how she was sort of received here by English people and by border guards and stuff like that. And that's kind of what inspired my poem, because I guess I feel a lot of, it's not exactly pity, but for my mum, because of her experience. Like my dad is English, so he just sort of slid seamlessly back into the country, but she very much felt a rift in her experience coming here. And like, because me and my brother were kids, she couldn't really we had a very different experience from her. So I guess that's kind of what inspired my poem, was sort of my mum's experiences.
So how old are you when you came here? Did you say?
I was 5.
Wow.
How do you see your like identity as someone from 2 different countries?
It's conflicted, because I was sort of raised here pretty much all my life. So I feel like an English person, but also I have a huge amount of family in America, and I go back a lot. So I still feel very strong American ties. But when I go back to America, it doesn't feel like home. So it's confusing. Definitely.
Yeah, I get that. No, that's really interesting.
How about yourself?
Yeah,
You got given the brief.
Given the brief, yeah. When I wrote the piece that I'm going to do, I was sitting on a bus on the way to Bath and looking out at some nice fields. And we're living in Birmingham as a student, but I'm from Dorset, and I have a very conflicted identity about how I feel about going between these 2 places. And my nostalgia for the southwest and the countryside is very, very strong, and so like whenever I've got the opportunity to just sit and gaze at fields, I tend to take that opportunity. So the piece that I'm doing is very much inspired by the kind of duality of existing in 2 places as a student, and at what point do you what point do you consider yourself a citizen of one place or the other, really? And where's the line? Is it a physical thing, like for example, I went down to somewhere in the southwest a couple of days ago, and it was just a weird experience for me, because I knew that I wasn't going home, but I was in this place that I more associate with home, and that was just really strange for me to kind of have that experience of being a student, but in the place that I don't associate with being a student. So yeah, my poem is it starts with that, I think, and then it kind of and then inevitably it starts to get a bit political as you go, about the kind of both about the politics of keeping the countryside as the countryside, and the response that people have to development in less urban areas, and trying to maintain the countryside as a green space, but also trying to accommodate people moving out of the cities, and just and building more houses for more people, and how you respond to that as a community, really. So that kind of sneaks in there, and then also the reality of the kind of as nostalgia as a privilege as well. I thought about that a lot, because like a lot of my relatives a few generations back were from were spread all around Europe and had to flee where they were from because of the Holocaust, and they probably had this nostalgia for the place where they were from, but they knew they could never go back there. So whilst I struggle with homesickness, but at least I can go back to the place that I'm feeling that homesickness for. Whereas even refugees who come to this country and who experience prejudice and who have gone through these horrible experiences, they have this same nostalgia about where they were from, no doubt, that's been just destroyed by the events there. And then that kind of came into the whole people moving out into the countryside from urban landscapes thing and housing people, because we're trying to protect our own nostalgia by not letting people build houses and move into countryside areas. But the reason that they're there is because they can't go to their homes anymore. So it's like, at what point, where do you draw the line? Like, where's the line between preserving the countryside and letting people who don't have their own sense of that in?
It's got really conflicting
absolutely.
There.
Absolutely. It's just it's a very difficult one to justify. It's a very, very difficult one to justify. But I'm trying my best to figure it out in my own head. I think.
So we should have 3 really unique.
Definitely. We've got some. Borderlines is such a broad thing. And I'm sure you'll see pieces all across these live streams that just tackle it in a totally different way.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool.
So who's gonna go first then?
Should we go left to right?
You know what, Corin? I had a feeling you'd say that.
Let's see what you're from there, Jonah. See what you're doing.
I'll warm them up, shall I?
Can we have a round of applause for Tom McCann?
Is it loud enough on the mic and everything? It's all cool. Okay.
No, just as it is.
Cool. All right, and so I think this piece has been uploaded onto the website, the Borderlines Poetry site for the UK, and it's called Crisscross Zigzag. And as I said to this pair, I just started writing, probably about a week ago or so, when Spaz told me about the project, and started with a couple of ideas, and it sort of goes on a few tangents and whatnot. As these things usually do. But it's still quite fresh, which is why I'm reading it off the page. So I'm sorry,
we're reading it off our phones, so it's
there we go. All right,
you're the one who actually.
So apologies if I might sort of slip up at any points, but it's cool because hey, it's a live stream, It's all good. It's all good. All right,
live television, guys.
That's it. All right. Okay. Crisscross, zigzag, squiggles on a map, arms thrown wide open. Who here is still open to the idea of showing or displaying acts of compassion, far-reaching and still searching, as opposed to a different approach that's inward-looking, a nation sulking, toys thrown out of the pram and a pacifier tossed onto the floor? Crisscross, zigzag, these lines that we draw in the sand will get washed away with the tide coming in. Try stopping it. Barricade yourself in a fort until it crumbles away and into the shore. Entirely positive that you know the right path to take, but not entirely sure why. This is just ingrained within you. Voices that you've conversed with and friends that you've made along the way, souls that you've connected with and lost connection with. Are you going to stray? Is this just a case of turning it on and off? Crisscross, zigzag, a hop, skip and a jump over a large gaping chasm. A what do you really want, as this could potentially drag. Try making another line in the sand. Try encouraging frequent movements beyond it when you can. Don't let those agitated undercurrents compromise your stance. Don't lose your footing in the moment because you stopped paying attention or because things stopped making sense. Cross Chris, zag zig, just feeling a little bit tangled up in it all, but not tethered like for so long we've been told. These squiggles and scribbles on the map between you and me, despite my modern fears, are all they'll ever be. Thank you. Thank you.
That's great, Tom.
Oh,
Thank
thanks.
you for that.
And
the kind of intertwining imagery of the crisscross zigzag.
Yeah,
And
I liked it.
oh,
that
cheers.
into the street poem really ties it together.
There was a couple of lines in that which I wrote in like a couple of my very first like poems that I started doing on open mics a few years ago, and you know, all total rubbish, obviously. And then you know, when I was responding to this sort of stimulus, somehow they worked their way into that.
That's really nice.
which
That's
was
cool.
nice.
You get like a palimpsest of the different writing styles that you've noticed
Yeah.
throughout time.
Yeah. So cheers.
Nice. Cheers, guys.
Oh yeah. So we're going to
We also have it as we click.
Do a bit of that.
That's how this works.
Because that's what us crazy poets do.
That's annoying, isn't it? That clicking. It's like, oh.
I quite like it. I don't get clicks very often. And Rip. Leo.
Right.
Hi. Just gonna get it up on my phone real quick. This one's called Border Control, and as I said earlier, it's mostly inspired by sort of airport experiences, because as a person who's mostly only travelled by plane, that's kind of in my head where the borders are drawn. Like, you know, when you land, that's sort of, you're in this whole new world, you have to cross over all the security stuff. Anyway, the first time my mom came to England was during her teacher training. Everyone was so happy for her, except for my grandpa. He said he was afraid that she would fall in love with an Englishman and never come home. Looking back, it would seem he could see the future. The first time my mom came to England was part of her teacher training. She would spend a term living with someone else's family, working at a school. She could only have been 20, perhaps 21. My mom dreamed of living in Masterpiece Theatre. Her heart was full of spires and towers and phone boxes with which to call home. The first time my mom came to England, she was a triangle-haired teacher in training. We will never know why Border Control decided that that was the face of a terrorist. We will never know why they kept her in an interrogation room for hours, nor why when she requested a phone call home they said, "Why not say it in person? We can send you on the next plane home if you won't shut up." The first time my mom came to England, they held her hostage while she sobbed. She sobbed because she couldn't go forward and she couldn't go back. This is why I say that Border Control has no soul, because if you cared for people, then you wouldn't keep a crying girl for no reason. The first time my mom came to England, she was scared. We were all criminals when faced with a metal detector, but now I know why my mom never lets go of my father's hand when we walk through airport security. She is chased through time by dogs who snarl, but now there is no home to go to. The last time my mom came to England, she was held in non-EU citizen line. I fell asleep in baggage reclaim while she worried that England would never reclaim her. While they asked her 50 questions and glared. While they had to get a superior border control officer to review her immigration status. That status is and has been since 2012 a citizen. They said the expired work visa and marriage visa, and their eyes rolled back into their heads. It would seem sleeping dogs do not lie in airports. When I first came to England, I did not understand the privilege of citizenship. Now I see my mom's fear, mirrored in the eyes of children worldwide who claw at borderlines, who beg to be let in only to be told, "We will send you home, you do not belong here. You must go home." It doesn't seem to matter that certain homes have bullet holes, whilst others have butlers. We are all just humans on this patchwork quilt of an earth, so when those children are shipped home to be buried, you may not hold the shovel, but the dirt under your nails will never go away. Thanks.
Brilliant. So clear.
I love the way it was almost as if you sort of like lulled lulled us into like a false sense of security with the first bit about like your grandpa and that, and then we really got into the meat of the subject. That was wicked.
Why, thank you.
It's so awkward, isn't it? Just sitting there. Yeah, that was really, that's really good. Yeah,
Keep the compliments going in the comments, guys.
It's a perfect illustration that something that I think will come up a lot in this live stream, which is the personal is absolutely political. It really is. Like, the experiences that we have shape the world around us, and politics is essentially the backbone of that. So yeah, gorgeous poem.
Thank you.
Oh dear.
No pressure then, Joe.
Lord, I've actually
no pressure.
So yeah, so I wrote this on the way on the bus to Bath and then back from Bath as well. It came out in the form of more like a rap than a poem, really, because the headline of the event that I was at was a guy called Crafty Danny Pandolfi, who's a bit of a legend, and he does like rap style thing. He does like Don't Fuck rap battles as well, which is fucking awesome. Sorry, I'm not supposed to swear, am I?
That's right.
Well, sorry.
Nobody heard that one already.
But yeah, so those came out in the form of that. Lots of rhymes. I spent this morning trying to weave internal rhymes into it. But yeah, and it's very much, you can tell that it was written on a bus, just staring dazed at the fields, and then kind of slowly I managed to get out of that and start to get to the heart of the piece. So yeah, stay with it. It's got something to say. Basically, it's not clear initially, but it's got something to say. Also, I'm gonna sing. Is that okay?
Yeah, middle late.
I know.
So
you
what
Yeah.
guitar back?
I don't have.
Did you do it? Hang on. Hang on.
All right. Do you want to try this? We could try this.
We haven't practiced this. I've literally just taken it. Where shall I do it? I'm slightly out of shot, but it don't matter.
So I'll do that. I'll sing the singy bit, and you can try and figure out how to do guitar over that, and then you can try and, because the poem has like a very consistent rhythm, so you can try and continue the rhythm over that. So it's there's a certain point on the horizon where the fields and the trees start to look that bit more familiar. And there's a feeling I just can't place that accompanies this crossing of borderlines, undefinable borderlines, where the fields and the trees start to look that bit more familiar. And there's a feeling I just can't place that accompanies this crossing of borderlines, undefinable borderlines. You ready? Okay, I'm gonna stop. I'm a sucker for a view. Give me a long train journey, a window and a stretch of sky, and I'll be set for life. Hypnotized by the sea of fields and trees, the eye makes an imprint of all that it sees, like the blue plains streaking white into the gleaming light, transfixed right until they're out of sight, like painted kites, aiming high then taking flight, escaping my mind upstream, jumping out the window and just bathing in the sunbeams. A love for rolling fields is the legacy that shouts home. Seeming trapped initially is a jealousy I've outgrown. I remember now where the longevity's about sown of my calm and humility. The sun, the grass, the sea, the sight of sprawling fields now ignites me with a kind of pride to see something so gorgeous with which I know I identify. It's a sense of life that I don't get right enough. Take the visors off, take the phones out, gender journey, just breathing in and out, crack the train window, let your mind go out, not far from meditation. Send your thoughts into nature. One on a day like today, it's not hard to forget who you are, and just like that I'm home. It's a gradual thing, one leaf from one stone, and the pastoral ring is like deja vu but overpowering. I can't help but know I'm gonna be here a while, and one day I hope I can recreate the same ineffable sense in a different places. It's all very well being attached. You grew up, but there's just too much of the world to just leave it be. Too many magnificent views left to see. Too many omnipotent feelings set free. The world is indifferent to my ennui. The firmament waits until I fetch the key. I don't know if you could hear any of that, but okay. There's a certain point on the horizon where the fields and the trees start to look that bit more familiar. And there's a feeling I just can't place that accompanies this crossing of borderlines, undefinable borderlines. The place I fall cannot be my anchor. I'm too wistful to not be let wander. These borderlines, they aren't physical. And if I become cynical, I'll build them myself, Trump style, fully cut off the outside world. Trade restrictions and predilections unfurled like banners, an impenetrable wall. Forgetting I'm not really native at all. My ancestors were spread across the globe, lived in places with questions that I'll never lope. Took that leap to explore beyond their sequestered scope, and that's exactly how I ended up in this home. But not all of them went voluntarily. The journey of some is a scar on history, and nostalgia is no match for a gun and a regime that plainly deems you not welcome. Yeah, nostalgia is no match for racism, and it's due to too few that we were saved extinction. So, in our effort to protect the view, where's the limit of what we would do? What are we prepared to suddenly reject? And most importantly, who? We love our green spaces, but they seem isolated. And growing up in a white world leaves our children racist. And if the field behind my house becomes a council estate, all the neighbours that live around will just cavil and complain, and a part of me will inevitably feel the same. But I know that feeling's nothing when compared to the pain of those seeking refuge, be it war or deluge. They had a home, we sent our drones, and now it's refuse. Shout the shroud louder, they feel nostalgia the same way we do. Are we so blinded by our desires that we can't feel it too? It's not an easy line, believe me, between environment policy, because to provide homes to those in need, we have to balance reason and greed. We have to balance the strength of our memories with what we know is best for everybody. We have to counter so we all survive. Even nostalgia is a compromise. The fields in my mind shout to the skies because nostalgia is a compromise. Thanks, guys.
Woo! That was like, we didn't practice that at all. It's like we just took the guitar off the wall and oh my days.
That was fun.
Oh, that was really
How
good. Organic was that? Organic. That's a great euphemism for making it up on the spot.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Comments, please.
Right, yeah, comments, yeah. Let's put my guitar back.
That was
Yeah.
genuine as well. So
No, that was
just saying.
literally that just was. I was not expecting that. I was to just go. There's a guitar up there. Let's do this.
Yeah, nice one. And
Oh, that was so much
oh,
fun.
Mag one. So well,
Also,
Should've got-
recommendations to
yeah.
Jonah because that was a freaking awesome poem.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Oh yes.
I haven't heard that much rap style stuff. That was jamming.
Cheers. Yeah.
A lot of words as well.
Yeah.
There's
That
a
was
lot
all
of
written
words.
on the train.
I'm on the bus
and
to and from bus.
A lot of
That
words
must
in
be a
there.
long journey.
It was a
Thoughts
little bit.
online, they seem very creative.
Oh, yes.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Well, we've been
Oh,
on air. Is that the right term?
Yeah.
For about what,
40 minutes.
40 minutes or
Blimey,
so.
how do we manage that?
I'm
Are you gonna do?
gonna do one.
All right, come and sit down here.
Cool. Right. That's my bottom there. Sorry about that. Right, okay. So yeah, this looks like a book, which it is.
Suppose a book.
I know. I know. So I wrote this. I wrote all the poems in the book, but this one in particular, it was. I went over to the jungle in Calais, the refugee camp, and I just went over with. I'm trying to remember the charity, Care for Calais. This was about a couple of years ago, and it just so happened to be over the weekend where Valentine's Day fell, February the 14th. It's quite amusing because when we were organising the trip, I said to my wife, I said, Claudia, Valentine's Day is coming up. Do you fancy going to France? I was really.
I imagine that wasn't what she.
Yeah, and she said, "Oh, Paris." I went, Calais. And she went, "No, you go."
You go.
But we went. There was a group of us went with Care for Calais just to help out, really. And there was a beautiful moment. We were in the warehouse, the Care for Calais warehouse, putting all the food parcels together. All in bags and filling up the van. And the deal was we'd go onto the camp and dish them out to the refugees. And there was this moment, I was one of the guys with my mate, Vimal, Odd-eyed Vimal, I don't know if he's watching, but we were handing the food parcels out the back of the van, and there were the rest of the helpers who were with us from the group. Some made like a little barrier either side, so just to keep everything under control, sort of a thing, so that it wasn't a free-for-all, and we got mobbed or whatnot. So it was all very well organised, and the guys there, the refugees, sort of recognised they, okay, we'll start a line, form a line. And this beautiful guy came up. He's, I don't know, 6'3", 6'4", huge geezer from West Sudan, with and he came up with this beaming smile. Hello, my name is Joseph. Gave me this hug, and he had this hat on with Chelsea FC on the middle of his hat. And I looked up, and he gave me a big hug and picked me up and all sorts. And I went there, and before I gave him the food parcel, I went, "What's that, Chelsea FC?" And he went, "Yes, great football team." And I went, "No food for you today then." But no, we had a bit of a joke. We shared a joke and a laugh. And this was the great thing. I gave him the food parcel, off he went, was happy as Larry. But the next day, which was actually Valentine's Day, we're walking through the camp, just to, again, say hello to people. Make them feel human. And his head popped out from his shack and went, "Hello, my friend." And it was him, it was Joseph, waving his hat. He says, "Come and have some food with us." And that's the measure of that guy and the people he was travelling with. He had next to nothing. And the only food he had was the bag that I'd given him the day before. And he was still willing and wanting to share it, which was just really humbling to be part of that. But anyway, so I wrote this poem called Valentine's Day in the Jungle. A version of this is on the Boomsatsuma website, so do have a look. So I wrote this, like I say, a year and a half, 2 years ago. It goes like this. I hear stories of a sinking ship that can carry no more, can't make it ashore because it's packed to the brim, where conditions are poor and pickings are slim. It sounds grim. But while sailors squabble over scraps and squeeze spaces, the opulent officers wear grins on their faces as they drill holes of austerity in the hull, whilst reciting their well-rehearsed mantra. The ship is full, yet they swing fat cats and gorging their enormous quarters, building barbed wire barriers instead of bridges over waters, exporters of war and slaughter to order with a barrage of broadsides on a biased border. I see stories. I see stories of hope and resilience where others are told to see fear and ambivalence, the threat of disobedience and an assault on sensibilities, just pathetic excuses for continued hostilities. I see frozen faces with the warmest smiles where others are told to see rapists and paedophiles. I see the cost of ignorance and neglect, people paying high prices, where others are told to see terrorists, told to devour divisive devices, so why alarms and why surprises when a doorstep challenge turns into a crisis. I see families who have cried so many tears they have none left, one time blessed though now bereft on Calais coastline as unwelcome guests. So how apt and fitting it is that those benevolent French authorities see refugees with tearless eyes, bloodshot and raw, so provide them with canisters filled with more. I tell stories. I tell stories till I'm hoarse, but is anyone listening? Compassion's gone missing and right-wing rhetoric resolve is stiffening. It's as crippling as Annie Wilkes in Misery, yet Joseph marches on in the midst of this artillery. He's here because he's sure metaphors won't kill as quickly as a civil war in West Sudan will. This once proud man tells me of his plight in pidgin English. It's left him morally molested and pigeon-chested. Says he'll swim the channel if he has to once he's fully rested from his last attempt at stowing away. So we drink tea together on Valentine's Day. And I make no apology. And I refuse to say sorry when I say the best thing to come out of France right now would be 1,000 hopeful smiles on the back of a lorry, a humane quarry and a ferry full of hope, not hate, to fill our soul, with an open gate at border control, because These are the sad and selfish days where we need to overstand open gates work both ways. There's a whole globe waiting for the xenophobe. Good riddance to bad rubbish, please, because I can't think of a fairer trade than fascists for refugees. Boom.
I love that one.
Yeah,
I've heard that one quite a few times,
Yeah.
and it's always just, you know, still get such goosebumps from it. You know, it's a really powerful piece.
Ooh, Matt's got a bit funny. Ah, there we go. We're back on again. So yeah, we have been writing a little bit while
You've had high opinions of us. If you have high opinions of us now, feel free to see those shattered before
we
your
did.
eyes.
Actually, I'm going to go and fetch my piece of paper. Have you got your piece of paper?
Yeah,
I'm gonna, that's exactly there. Now we came up with
I might be able to read my own handwriting. That's the question.
a little polyvocal part. No, yeah. So, are we going to start with a little polyvocal, a little all together or in unison? Yeah. And then we'll go. Should we go from left to right again? Yeah. Cool.
So it's always me warming them up.
So we can go.
Tom's the sacrificial tonight.
Nice one. So, right, this was our little. Are we ready? Are we ready?
Little mantra.
Shall I count us in?
Yeah, okay.
3, 2, 1, go. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go.
There was always a sense of interrogating the lines between us.
The space between us, man-made. Where are we headed, and where did we begin? Set off, reach out and extend your hands. Open your heart, trying to decipher it, trying to make sense again. Start making sense again.
A hostile environment of no man's land where no human is illegal, yet the rhetoric is made believable by vested interests and investments, where talk is cheap and lives are cheaper, like commercial loss leaders, were sold divisions and poor decisions by architects of barriers. They've got bricks to sell and walls used more than bridges. So, hey, give them a break. They're just trying to make a living.
As a kid, I felt the space in every word that I spoke. All my accent was for to provoke and provoke. Every sentence a message, a call back home. But beyond my borders, I was alone. What language do they speak in America? But English is never the right answer.
There was always a sense of interrogating the lines between us. When we were younger, we had to search for our own definitions, communicating within ourselves to find who we were and how that related to one another. A physical manifestation of this involved climbing inside single file a hedge that divided 2 fields and carving our way through as much of the centre as could be achieved with a penknife and a pair of pliers. I think we knew we were doing more than just cutting through branches. We were finding the roots inside ourselves. 1, 2, 3. There was always a sense of interrogating the lines between us.
Boom!
5-minute poem.
Right, well, to be fair, right, there we go. Look at that. We just wrote that just like 10 minutes before we went live. I've got
2 minutes before we went live.
So yeah, it's coming up to 10 to 8 here in Birmingham, England. Guys, I hope you've all had an absolutely fantastic time this evening. Some of you guys may well still be broadcasting, so we're going to click on a few of the links and have a little look there. But I suppose from Birmingham, England, good night, Europe. And let's hope.
Stay strong.
Yeah, just
again. Sorry.
Take it easy. All right,
Cheers. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Buzz. Big up QOB Writers Block.
Huzzah.
Yeah.
University of
Speak
Birmingham,
out.
Boomsatsuma, and everyone. And come to
Joel
Birmingham.
Taylor.
Come to Birmingham. We love everyone.
There's an absolutely wonderful